Welcome to the HR Happy Hour Work Break. You are here with Trish and Steve. Hey, Steve Bose.
Hey, Trish. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Happy St. Patrick's Day.
Happy St. Patricia's Day.
I'm
St. Patrick's Day.
My Ireland pub shirt.
Look at you.
And Trish, I got myself a beverage. I do have a Guinness
for the
occasion. So you keep talking while I prepare my beverage.
You have your drink. You know what? This really is a work break for me. I have been working on a survey that H3HR is putting together. So that's coming along nicely. But surveying takes a lot of time and focus. So I've been really hyper focused today on that. So yeah, no Guinness for Trish.
Little frothy. Well, you are allowed. Look, this is the day we are all Irish, Trish. I do have a couple of St. Patrick's Day statistics, if you don't mind.
Oh yeah, go ahead. I really don't know much about it.
Well, here, that's why I'm here.
Here we go.
So March 17th is celebrated as St. Patrick's Day. It is the anniversary of St. Patrick, his death, the anniversary of his death on March 17th, and estimated in the year 461.
Wow.
The Irish recognized the holiday more as a religious holiday, St. Patrick's Day, in the Catholic Church in about the 9th or 10th century. And the first parade in New York City for St. Patrick's Day was all the way back, Trish, in 1772, which I couldn't believe how long ago it was. And finally, Trish, about 30 million Americans claim at least some Irish ancestry. So how about that? Those are your St. Patrick's Day highlights and statistics.
That's interesting. And I'm actually surprised that the first parade here in this country was that long ago. That's a little...
Well, I was thinking about some of these dates, 461 and then the 9th and 10th century. Trish, do you think back in the year 999, they spent the whole year worrying about the Y1K bug?
No.
I would have been really is my spear going to stop working? Will my plow no longer go straight when we turn to Y1K?
Speaking of that, do you remember how insane Y2K was? We all thought that was going to be the end of everything.
I do, Trish. I was I'm old enough to be working in enterprise technology back then, and we were freaking out for the better part of that year, and all for naught, as it turned out.
Yeah, exactly. Planning the entire time. Well, good. Well, thank you for all of the interesting facts on St. Patrick's Day. I actually didn't know those. So
I enjoy the holiday. My son, Trish, you know this. The audience may not know this. Is named Patrick. So I sent him a text today that said, "Happy St. Patrick's Day." And he wrote back and said, No. Happy St. Me's Day. M-E-apostrophe-S.
So he's claiming it.
Here's to all the Patricks out there and all the Irish.
I'm Patricia. I feel that's the feminine form of Patrick. I feel like I should get some additional, Patricia McFarlane, that's about as Irish as you can get, right?
Happy St. Patricia's Day. Absolutely.
Very good. Hey, listen, I want to tell you about a follow-up to something we talked about a week or two ago, but it's also new. So we had talked about, you brought up The Real World and the whole reboot, right?
Yeah.
The reunion show.
Original Real World, New York, yep.
That's right. And I told you that I was a big fan of all of them in all the different ways. But one person in particular that I had followed since I got on Twitter, I think, or shortly thereafter, was Kevin Powell, who is the writer, poet, wound up being a feature writer for Rolling Stone and Vibe and a bunch of other magazines and newspapers over the years. He's a journalist as well. But anyway, I followed him on Twitter for a long time, and he follows me. But what I noticed was he had tweeted
big time.
I know, right? He had tweeted a little while ago that he is doing free workshops on writing. So if you just go on Facebook and look up Kevin Powell's writing workshop, you can join the club if you're a writer or aspiring writer or want, a free workshop. So anyway, I missed the first couple because I just learned of this about a week ago. But I attended one last night, and it was on writing poetry. So my question for you is, have you ever written poetry? Do you read poets? What is your stance on poetry, Steve?
I suppose back in school with school assignments, I must have written a poem or two, right? That's part of the curriculum. I would say I'm a fan of a couple of poets. I do possess Walt Whitman's Leaves of Grass, probably my number one. Great poem, great book of poems, but Leaves of Grass itself is probably my number one poem, my go-to. and then a little bit of T.S. Eliot in the mix. Let's roll him in there. I'd say so. Yeah,
Okay.
I have a limited appreciation of poetry. It's limited to two authors who wrote about 100+ years ago, but yeah.
Well, you know what? I wonder, because you're right. We do learn it in school. We, depending on what school you go to and when you go to school, right, could be different poets. But anyway, we all learn about poetry. You're a writer, so I thought maybe, there's probably influence you don't even think about. And that's why I don't want to give away anything about this class, because if people go and sign up for free, you can watch it, the replay of it. But anyway, it got me to thinking, I've been writing my whole life, not publicly, obviously, but like my first memory of really liking books was like Shel Silverstein and Dr. Seuss and people, who were poets basically for children. And I would, memorize the poems and constantly be writing my own little poems and things like that. And what I found really interesting was one point, it was a whole huge group of people that were on, and we all got a chance to talk about writing. But it was interesting to me because they were talking about putting poetry into your other work.
Okay.
So I kind of wanted to just put that out there to you, to the audience, because I know a lot of people are in business who are watching this. And I just think that if we kind of reflect back on maybe some of the things that we like about poetry, maybe even if it is a childhood poet we liked or an adult poet. I read a lot of Maya Angelou and really, what he was even saying, Kevin Powell said last night that Smokey Robinson, for example, is one of his favorite poets. So even if you think of like musical lyrics and that sort of thing, they're so meaningful to people. But anyway, he said, you think about putting poetry when you're doing research, put poetry in when you're writing a report, put poetry in those same concepts of alliteration and the tempo and all those things.
Yeah,
and
repetition, things like that. Sure, yeah.
I'm going to be honest with you. I have not thought about that ever.
That's a good idea. I think it could spruce up your normal business writing, right? Or even casual writing. If you're it's a way to think more creatively about what you're doing. Anything like that, I think, is a great idea. Absolutely.
Yeah. So anyway, I think it was really fun. It was a worthwhile hour. He does have, if you sign up, the next one is March 25th. It's every Tuesday night. The next one is The Art of Writing Fiction. And then the Tuesday after that, I just wrote down the next two, is The Art of Writing Scripts. So again, I think even if you're not someone who's writing fiction or writing scripts or writing poetry for that matter, just hearing some tips on how to make your writing better, how to make the stories more meaningful for your audience, and whether that's a business audience or a personal audience. Anyway, so it was a very nice gift from Kevin.
I like it.
Our friend from the real world. So
I'll try to sign us off with some poetry if I can muster up the courage at the end. I've got an idea.
He challenged us. We had to take 2 minutes and write a poem last night about our favorite color. Mine was okay. I didn't share it with the group. I was a little too nervous. I was a little too shy. But as I reread it this morning, I thought, look at me writing a poem. I'm really excited. You can tell. I'm like excited to give this a try in my business writing. So cool. I may get brave and put it on my blog, because it doesn't have to be about business, right? Should I put it on my blog?
It's your blog, Trish. I don't think there's really any editorial constraints.
I just need your opinion.
I say go for it.
All right, maybe I'll share it. I'll be brave.
I used to post on my blog when I used to blog. I used to post breakfast cereals ranked. Like that was on my business blog. On your business blog. Maybe you know what? I think too, the posts that I did that were really random sometimes even did better than the business ones. The most viewed post ever in the history of my blog, Trish, was 100 years ago, which was, here's 100 interesting people to follow on Twitter. Back when Twitter was really new, and especially HR Twitter was new. I was like, okay, here's 100 HR accounts to follow. Yeah. That killed for views. I remember I wrote something, and it wasn't even about Rob Zombie, but I did a business post and I mentioned Rob Zombie. That thing still. You get good Google SEO on that? My goodness. So yeah, that's my tip for the rest of the world. If you're a blogger or a writer and you want some good SEO, mention Rob Zombie, because you're going to get it. That, and I did one on whether or not giraffes float, like in water, like if they're crossing a river. I don't know who's searching for that on Google, but maybe not quite the SEO juice as a pop star, but. Oh, I love this. We're getting some comments here.
The Raven. Our guy Tom Horn is always quick to recite the final verse on the spot. Real? Oh, okay. Now we've talked to Tom before, so now I'm going to put him to the challenge. We're going to make a mental note of that one, Steve. We're going to say, like, if in case we ever talk to Tom in the next couple months, I'm going to try and remember to mention that to him.
Do we have time for one more quick news? Do we have time for one quick news item?
One quick news item, and then we'll call it a day.
Trish, the country of Spain, a country we have both been to. It's one of our favorite countries. Spain is piloting the 4-day work week officially, 32 hours per week for the work week. The Spanish government will cover 100% of the costs for employers who participate in this program of a 4-day work week. And in other news, Trish, I will be moving to Spain. So, yep.
Okay, wait. Just to make sure I heard you right. 32 hours a week.
Yeah.
So they're not saying get 40 into 4 days.
No, this is not 410s. This is 32 hours a week, 4 days. Let's make it happen. They don't want people's salaries to be reduced. They don't want anybody to lose their jobs, and they'll subsidize employers who participate in this program who maybe need to hire more staff or need to backfill some of the salary costs, et cetera. So it's going to be an interesting program later in this year. I'm going to keep an eye on this one.
I'll have to be honest with you, and I don't know much about Spain in terms of legally what, how many hours people work if they're salaried and so forth. But I mean, here, I think we could say that all day long, but the truth is the majority of people, unless you're hourly, you're not going to get 32 hours of work. If I stopped at 32 hours of work, I'd be a 3-day work week, really. And I know you would be too. Let's be honest, right? On many days, we would be. Yeah, I mean, so I don't know. I think it's one thing to say it. I would love to see how.
It depends if we categorize this as work. Is this work? I don't know.
I think anything.
I'm drinking a giant Guinness and we're making jokes. I guess not, probably.
This is the work.
Trish, what if we had a real employer, you and I? Do you think we'd still be doing this? I'm thinking no, probably.
We are a real employer. We employ people.
Yeah, but so we make the decisions about. All right, never mind.
No, you know what? I think this is absolutely work. It's a work break, but we do talk about work. So
we do.
But it is my way to step away from what I was doing. So anyway, hey, we got to go. It is like 12 minutes. We have gone way over.
All right, here we go.
Fun.
Failing to fetch me at first, keep encouraged. Missing me one place, search another. I'll stop somewhere waiting for you.
I love that.
There you go. Mr.
Who
Whitman.
that?
Walt Whitman, Leave the Grass. Boom.
Really? Well, I love that. You should end tomorrow with a poem as well. All right. Hey, everyone. Thanks for watching. Thanks for putting up with us when we do all this crazy talk. Hopefully you're all getting something out of this. I know we do. We love taking the break. Steve for sure is getting a lot out of this. And challenge yourself. Go write a poem. I want everybody to go write a poem tonight. I don't care if you're a writer or not. Take time. Think of a topic. Even if you have to use the one from yesterday, which was, what is your favorite color? And you can't just be super obvious like yellow is the sun. Have to think about it. But go write a poem. Come back here tomorrow and share it. We'll talk to you all tomorrow.